Well, this is certainly something that I didn't think we'd be talking about, because today we had ourselves some word that the Detroit Red Wings are indeed interested in a guy. Yeah, normally these videos are like, oh, could they be interested in somebody? Would they be interested in trading for this player? Hypothetically, in a ideal situation, is this possible type of thing? But now, this update is like, hey, apparently the Wings are interested in this guy, and we don't have to use the hypothetical scenario imperative language here. Let's go over onto an article published on rg.org by Daria Tubotseva. She went out there and posted this earlier this morning, talking about forward Maxime Comtois, who is eyeing NHL return with the Detroit Red Wings interested. The title doesn't really make sense in the sentence format that I just presented in that prior commentary, but either way, you can read it right here. The article is going to be linked in the description. Before we dive into what the piece says, let's dive into Maxime Comtois and his player profile. He's 26 years old, 6'3", 223, a left-handed left wing, drafted in the second round, 50th overall by the Anaheim Ducks in 2017. His contract in the NHL expired 1 year ago, and after posting up 19 points in 64 games with the Ducks in 22-23, he had played the entire season pretty much in the Chicago Wolves system in the AHL, posting up 44 points in 65 games over there. He then left North America, heading over to Dynamo Moscow in the KHL, where he posted up 50 points in 62 games there. Also had 13 points and 7 goals in 15 KHL playoff games. Maxime Comtois was a guy who, at one point, was seen as maybe one of the better Anaheim Ducks prospects. He was way over a point per game in the QMJHL, he was slightly under a point per game in a limited stint with Anaheim, and he was the World Junior Team Captain Canada, all in the ripe old 2018-19 season. And back then, 5-6 years ago, Maxime Comtois was one of the more highly touted prospects. This was a guy who, in his prime, could be a total power forward with a goal-scoring touch, who could dominate play physically, and who would be a constant threat in a top 6 of an Anaheim Ducks squad. Unfortunately for Comtois, we recognize that it didn't work out that way. He went over to the KHL, but now this new piece on rg.org is talking about how he does want to come back. Let's go out there and read what the article says. Forward Maxime Comtois might sign a contract with the Red Wings. According to RG sources, the Canadian player has several NHL offers, including one from Detroit. A decision about his future is expected in the coming months. He also received an offer from Dynamo Moscow of the KHL, where he played last season. The 26-year-old forward spent the past season in Russia, getting 50 points in 62 regular season games. He performed notably in the playoffs, becoming Dynamo's top scorer with 13 points in 15 games. Demonstrating leadership, he helped Dynamo reach the Gagarin Cup semifinals for the first time since 2013, where they lost to Tractor Chelyabinsk 4-1. During his year in the KHL, Comtois established himself as one of the league's most dynamic players, earning a reputation as its chief agitator with 99 penalty minutes during the regular season. His time in Russia revitalized his career, which had declined in recent years. "I felt I got a second wind," Comtois said in a recent interview. "I've always said I wanted to return to the NHL, and this season I did everything possible to make that happen. Hockey had become just a job for me in North America, but here it became my passion again." And that's nice to see, right? Comtois having a revitalization of love for the sport after playing in Russia, after being in a spot where things didn't really go the ways that we expected it to in North America. He wasn't really sticking it as an NHL caliber athlete, nor was he even close to the point production that we thought he would be able to achieve back when he was a young junior prospect. And ultimately for Comtois, I'm not going to say that there is any likelihood that he becomes that guy in a second go-around at the National Hockey League level, but there is a chance that he can be at least serviceable, right? I mean, his career high in NHL points in a season was 32. He had accomplished that in only 55 games in 2020-2021. But as the years went on, Comtois found himself lower and lower in the depth chart and not really fulfilling that role that the Anaheim Ducks wanted out of him. There was a time where we thought Comtois could be a consistent 65-ish point guy with those power forward-like qualities. This was a really underrated pickup in the second round at one point. Now in the KHL, he was sub-point per game. He also was a little bit further down there in terms of KHL scoring. He was top 25 in the league, which is fine, just slightly better than Nail Yakupov and Ivan Demidov. That's not to say at all that he's going to be Ivan Demidov, even though he did outproduce the guy. But of course, you can't just say, oh wow, he had more points than Demidov, he's going to be as good as him. No, Demidov was a teenager. Comtois is 26 years old. Normally, guys who are in the KHL and producing this amount of points, they don't really have the best NHL translatability. I think it only happens once in a while, you know? The Andrei Kuzmenkos, or the first-year Nikita Gusevs, or the Kirill Kaprizovs, the Panarins. These guys torched the KHL in points. And then they came over into the NHL and they were great. Other guys, though, I mean, Comtois is in that same territory if you disregard Demidov. He's got Nail Yakupov on his tail. There are some other former NHLers that were slightly better than Comtois in terms of point production, like Jordan Wheel, Nikolai Goldobin, Taylor Beck is on here too. I don't think anybody's going to go out there and say that if Jordan Wheel were to make an NHL return, he'd be a fantastic top-tier scorer, so you can't really expect anything out of Comtois. Okay, no, that sounds kind of mean. You can expect some stuff, but if you're expecting him to produce the same amount of numbers, then okay, you're probably not going to get that. You just kind of have to try to reason out how far does he produce in the National Hockey League if he gets that chance in 2025, 2026. And if it's the Detroit Red Wings that are going to go out there and get this guy, I kind of start questioning whether or not this is Yzerman bargain bin hunting again. I mean, Comtois is 26 years old. He's not going to get a lot of money at the NHL level. I mean, he's coming straight from Russia. There's no reason to give him a high dollar amount. But if Steve Yzerman has penciled an offer to him, I do wonder if this is just going to be more of a prove it, let's see what you got type of deal, or if this is more of a, hey, we think you're the guy that you were in the KHL, in the NHL type of deal. We're going to give you the money that proves that. If there are a bunch of teams going out there and vying for Comtois' services because of that physical edge and because he was the KHL's leader in penalty minutes this previous season, if they're getting him for being a brute, then okay, I can understand a team maybe giving a little bit more dough to him for that, whilst also acknowledging his scoring ability. But I just don't know if Detroit is the team that could benefit the most from this kind of a guy. If anything, I think if he ends up signing and he doesn't really produce all too much, I think a lot of fans are just going to turn on Stevie Y again. Sure, it's true that he can be a huge physical presence, maybe in the same way that David Perron was, and that can earn him some brownie points with the fans and the folks in the room, but I just don't know if that's all too necessary of a need for the Red Wings right now when you consider the other areas that they need to improve upon. Okay, maybe I have to give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe Comtois is not the main guy that Detroit is targeting, he is just one guy. And maybe the Wings do have plans to get a scorer, it's just not being executed right now, because KHL production cannot be translated one-to-one into the NHL. You have to assume you're getting Comtois just to be a middle-to-bottom six physical force who can maybe produce, hopefully, 20 points on a season? I don't know. But I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Detroit Red Wings reportedly offering up some dough to Maxime Comtois. They want this guy. The offer has been confirmed by the media. Let me know in the comment section all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this British Trolls 99. And bye.